Have you ever gotten that overlapping cabinet number error? That one right there. Error numbering cabinets, check for overlapping cabinets. So on this episode of a Cabinet Vision Minute, we're going to go in and dissect this one. What does that error mean and how do we fix it? Okay, so let's look at the error first. What does the error mean? So error numbering cabinets, check for overlapping cabinets. My first inclination would be to think that perhaps I have two cabinet numbers named exactly the same. Cabinet number 38 is found in one room and then there's another one next to it. Or I don't know. My imagination is going crazy. What does this error really mean? To dissect that, what I first did was I ran a report in the report center, just a simple cabinet list, cab 001. One of the first things I noticed, at least in this particular error situation, was that, or an anomaly that I found, was that the comment field had Chinese characters in that. That was odd. So that might be some sort of indication as to what's causing the error, but it is at the very least unusual. The other thing I noticed was that I couldn't find any duplication in the cabinet numbers that I ran here. So they all went in sequence, no problem. There is no break or duplication or overlap. So the error message really isn't giving me any clues as to where this is occurring. Here's another place that I looked. I looked up close in every room to see if I could find any overlap in there. Still nothing. Everything looked pretty good. On the reports tab, if you go there, you can see that it's a listing, much like the report that we just looked at, of every cabinet in each room. And so this is where I started to get some more useful information. Starting at the very first room, every time you change rooms, you get the error again. So looking at this list wasn't really giving me a clue about what is happening with the overlapping cabinet numbers. I then started looking at the cabinets themselves on the wall. So let's go, and I looked at this particular one. I have a floating shelf in there, and I noticed that I have floating shelf number 80 and then 82, but back on the reports, I have 3 floating shelves. What's going on there? But I don't see 3 floating shelves on the elevation. And then I see that I do have 2 numbers there. If I click on floating shelf, one of these floating shelves, it says 81, and now I have 80 off to there to the left. I'm going to delete that one. So I only have 2 floating shelves now. Maybe that was it, because they appeared to be overlapping, not the numbers, but the cabinets themselves. And lo and behold, that seemed to clear it up. What is really happening there is not overlapping cabinet numbers. It is just simply overlapping cabinets. So I've seen a different manifestation of this same error. Actually, it was in the same job. It just kind of showed itself up in a different way. And that was that in this laundry room, on the reports, I actually had a floating shelf at the top of the list as item number 0. And it was the same configuration, that is, floating shelf was overlapping on the other floating shelf. Back to that Chinese character for a moment, I found that this came from a catalog item, floating shelf, and if I right click on the properties of that, there is a comment that says custom white melamine. I deleted that comment, and the Chinese characters went away, mysteriously enough. A lot of odd situations like this happen from time to time in Cabinet Vision, with a little detective work like I just did there, with noticing that these 2 floating shelves were overlapping. That's how we're going to get to the bottom of these cryptic error messages. That's it for today. We'll see you on the next one.